Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for our host for the evening, Mr. Joe Carey.
Hello, welcome to Upstairs the White Horse. I say that quite a lot and then run off the stage, thankfully, and let the musician take over, but somehow Aidan has talked me into continuing the speech. So I suppose I got advice years ago as a songwriter. I think it was John Splan actually pulled me aside and he said, write about what you know, and tonight I'm going to talk about what I know, and that's music. It's kind of it's been a lifelong partner to me. I suppose 20 years now I've dabbled, as Aidan has said, is probably the best word. So I've played and performed, and obviously recently I've started to host and to produce and operate in the background a bit more. But I've always felt wonderfully lucky and wonderfully privileged that I was given that chance, you know, and I felt that music has enriched my life so much. And we'll see if this can, here we go. But I suppose specifically I want to talk about music in the community. As Aidan says, it's something that I've come across in the last few years, and it's an area that I've become far more interested in. I suppose as a performer, one can be quite selfish, and it's a slightly egotistical thing to stand on stage and to demand everybody's attention and to tell them your stories of various breakups and girlfriends you didn't have, etc., etc. So it's a very different journey, I think, to the one that I'm going to talk about tonight, but it's worth bearing in mind that there's still a performance going on. It's just a different type of performance. And these are some of the lovely people who've graced the stage over the last 3 years. And again, we've kind of shared very privileged moments with these artists. There's from Paul Brady to Eddie Reader and Tim O'Brien and Grammy Award winners and all sorts. We've always felt, I certainly felt very lucky to be in the space. I've walked away enriched as I felt everybody else did as well. And we gained so much, but I think we were always the lucky few, you know. We were the ones with the headspace, with the wherewithal, with the means to get here. To some extent we are tonight as well, you know, that we've been able to maybe plug out from the day-to-day life and actually come and stretch our mind, and in fairness to Aidan, he's a great advocate of that. So I just felt that privilege should be shared. It shouldn't be for I wouldn't say the elite, but certainly the lucky few who can actually to come along and really savor what's involved in these performances. And to some extent, this journey started 3 years ago. And the rather catchy headline there is a bit tongue-in-cheek, but myself and my co-director of the Winter Festival, Christy Leahy, sat down about 3 years ago and we said that January was a very barren month, and let's put something on, but let's make it community-focused and community-based. So we decided to roll with the Ballincollig Winter Music Festival, and we're just 2 weeks away from the next one. But again, we set it out with two big things in mind. The foundation stones would be that we wouldn't compromise on the quality of music, and the second was that we wanted to reach every single person in the community. Now, that's easier said than done. I mean, the straightforward thing is to get a headline artist here. It's to get Paul Brady here to play to people for €25 on the door. The straightforward thing is to get a session downstairs, a free session in various pubs around town. That's the easy part. The hard part is reaching the people who can't come here, who perhaps don't have the means, and again, who are probably, I wouldn't say more deserving, but certainly maybe more in need of that enrichment. They're in need of that headspace. So we set out with the goal of reaching everybody in the community. We didn't quite know how to do it, and it's taken us a few years to figure it out. And this year, we're still in that process. It's still at the start, but we're going to pilot a couple of projects in the community. And the important thing for us, again, is that we didn't compromise on the quality of that offering. So we wanted to employ the best people we could to come and get into the community, people who are trained, people who are specialised in helping people essentially through the medium of music. So that's what we've managed to do. We're going to get 5 of probably the foremost practitioners of music and health and music in the community to come to Ballincollig in about 2 weeks' time. And we've partnered up with 2 very worthy community organisations in Ballincollig. One is the Westgate Foundation, which is it's involved in care of the elderly, and it runs the whole gamut from active retirees right to I suppose, elderly people with cognitive impairment, etc. And the second organisation that we wanted to partner with was the Ballincollig Family Resource Centre, essentially a really great hub in the centre of the town that helps and deals with people from the recently unemployed to youths in trouble to, you know, runs the full gamut, I suppose, of social issues and problems. So we're going to send the 5 musicians into these setups in about 2 weeks. And these 5 musicians, I suppose, share a common background and a common training, in that all of them trained in Paris with an organisation called Musique et Santé. It's the foremost organisation in Europe for the development of live music in hospital settings and care settings. So all 5 of them trained there, and it has some wonderful foundation ideals and some wonderful, I suppose, principles. Things like humanization, obviously in sterile environments and care environments, sometimes, you know, the patients, I suppose, even through no fault of the clinical help, can become a little bit dehumanized. The schedules can become very monotonous. So again, Musique et Santé was devised so that monotony can be broken, that the people can be challenged, that those with cognitive impairment could get some solace, that those with physical disability could get a window to the outside world. And it's still doing it. It's gathering massive momentum throughout Europe. It's been employed by most government organisations in Europe at the moment. And our 5 professionals who are coming to Ballincollig have partaken in projects based in Poland, in the UK, in Paris, St James's Hospital. So they're expert at I suppose, at interacting with people. Again, as I say, people who are perhaps, you know, on the verge of society a little bit. So the one little thing to bear in mind is this isn't musical therapy I'm talking about. Musical therapy follows a kind of a clinical, I suppose, format, in that the music therapist essentially forms part of the clinical care, and there's a diagnosis, there's a set of treatments, and there's a final conclusion. I suppose if you think of music and health professionals as allies, they're therapeutic allies to the clinical help. So a very good point, I suppose, that Musique et Santé has made is that if you think of a triangle in just say a healthcare setting of the patient, the family, and the clinical help, the musician occupies that space in the middle, so that there is a conduit. They're there to maybe to bring in the outside world, to make things less formalized, to I suppose take the clinical edge off the settings. So we've got the 5 of them here. I'm not sure what names are going to do for you, but they're all active throughout Ireland. Kevin and Kiva formed Music Alive. It's a West Cork-based company that deal primarily in mental health. Liam Merriman and Grania Hope are based in Waterford. They were very active in the Waterford Healing Arts Trust. So Liam is actually he's a trainer now of people in this circle or the sphere. And Joe Philpott finally is somebody who's been active with the probation service. He's been active with strengthening families. He's trained again in these hospital and clinical settings. So I suppose, what are we going to do? Are we going to just arrive in and play a few songs? Well, no. We're going to try and, I suppose, make an impact beyond just the obvious. We're going to go in and devise a few techniques that the guys have learned, or to employ a few techniques that the guys have learned. Just to give you a couple of examples of how they do work. Kevin and Joe recently operated in a psychiatric ward in Waterford Hospital, and when they arrived there, the guards were there actually bringing in a new patient, and it was a very tense atmosphere. They were led into the room where they were to I suppose carry on their project, and they had a group of 30, 20 to 60-year-old males who were, I suppose, at various stages of psychiatric, in psychiatric need. And Joe and Kevin had devised a very clear plan. They'd spent 2 hours in the morning devising what their strategy was going to be. And within 10 minutes, somebody had mentioned that there was a rapper. One of them rapped. So Joe and Kevin prodded a little more and said, "Okay, what do you rap about?" And the gentleman in question said, "Well, anything, just throw me a word." And somebody shouted out democracy. So the young man proceeded to rap for 10 minutes about democracy. He held an election in his head between good and evil. and the whole, I suppose, dynamic of the encounter changed completely. It served as a vehicle for everybody else to get involved. I suppose there were, people who hadn't talked for 2 weeks suddenly started wanting to be rappers too, and exploring their own little stories and their life stories. But again, it sent electricity to the room. It broke the monotony. It broke a really tense situation, and they all left. I suppose Joe, Kevin, and also all of the patients in the care. They all left with a sort of a renewed sense of certainly fun, but maybe beyond that as well, maybe hope. And I think that's what we want to get to. We want to really to give hope and to give new direction to people who may be a little bit marginalised and maybe a little bit forgotten as well. So I suppose I could talk and talk and talk, but you can't talk about music really, can you? So I'm going to try and play a song now as well. I don't know how we're doing on time, Aidan, but we're okay. So so this is a tune that I got from a guy called Dirk Powell. I'm going to stand out of the way here. Dirk is coming to Ballincollig in 2 weeks' time. He's a fantastic musician, multi-instrumentalist from Kentucky, and he's almost a historian of music as well. Dirk was a music consultant to the film Cold Mountain, and he's worked on many Grammy Award-winning things since. But he came across this song that was, I suppose, it could have been written 130, 140 years ago, most likely by Irish immigrants to the area in around Kentucky that he lived. And it was a story of struggle, it was a story of fear, but ultimately one of hope. And the thing that struck me is that it has endured for that 100 and odd years. And in 2 weeks' time, Dirk will come full circle and play it back to us, perhaps, following the footsteps of those who initially came up with the song Pain and Struggle. But as I say, there's a lovely softness to it as well. So yeah, I think I'll just play it for you. Is that okay? And I can use this chair and it swivels. So. I went out late one night, the moon and stars were shining bright. The sun came up and the rain came down. I tell you boys, I was waterbound. Waterbound on a stranger's shore. Rivers rising to my door. Carried my home to the field below. Waterbound, nowhere to go. Carved my name on an old barn wall. No one would know I was there at all. Stable's dry on a winter's night, and if you turn your head, you'd see the light. Black cat crawling on an old box car, rusty door and a falling star. Ain't got a dime in my nation's sack. I'm waterbound and I can't go back. It's I'm gone and I won't be back. If you don't believe me, watch my track. The The river's long and the river's wide. I see you boys on the other side. Say my name and don't forget, the river wide ain't got me yet. It's nothing now and I'm bound to roam. I'm water bound and I can't go home. Say my name, don't forget, water still ain't got me yet. It's nothing now and I'm bound to roam. I'm water bound and I can't go home. Thank you.